Hi everybody, I hope you're doing marvellously well. Recently, multi-platinum recordist and our good friend, Mr. Matthew Weiss, went down to Miami to test drive some incredible 251 style microphones. It's going to be an interesting one. There is an original 251 and then some others. So without further ado, let's go and check out the Shootout.
We're here at Power Station Studio in Pompano Beach, just north of Miami. It's a facility with an amazing staff, an incredible room, and one of the best mic lockers in the world. Amongst the many great microphones available, one of them is a Serial 1000 1962 ELA M251, one of the rarest and most venerated microphones of all time. Today, we're doing an epic 251 style showcase. I've selected 4 different 251 style microphones from 4 different companies at 4 distinctly different price points to try out. Our first microphone will be the Universal Audio Bach 251. David Bach is a designer known for doing his own take on classic microphones. His 251 was acquired by Universal Audio, a company that has set the bar for quality in the audio world for decades. This mic clocks in at a price point of $6,000. Next up, we have the Warm Audio WA251, founded by Bryce Young in 2011. Warm has quickly become a major market disruptor with a reputation for cloning the most sought-after gear and selling at a fraction of the price. Our WA251 comes in at a mere $850. Our third mic is the Circle Audio Evo 251. Circle Audio is the new kid on the block. Helmed by multi-platinum producer Keith Ross, the Evo 251, designed by Langston Massengale, purports to be an evolution of the classic 251 sound. This mic is priced at $1,900. And lastly, we have an original run 1962 ELA M251. This incredibly rare piece is one of the most desirable microphones of all time, with a valuation of a whopping $35,000. Oh, wait. Did I say lastly? Hold on. There's a twist. I'm actually going to include a 5th microphone, but it's going to be a mystery. You're not going to know what it is, and I'm not going to tell you anything about it until the very end. So I'd like to thank our sponsors, Universal Audio, Warm Audio, and Circle Audio, and especially thank our mystery sponsor for remaining a mystery. Should be fun to guess what this mystery microphone is. Hey folks, Matthew Weiss here, and I'm here on behalf of Produce Like a Pro. In this video, we've got something really fun lined up. We're going to be doing a shootout between 4 different 251 style microphones and 1 mystery mic. Ooh, spooky. This is not going to be a shootout, though, the way that you're used to seeing shootouts. So in a typical shootout, the way we normally do things is we align the capsules of every microphone as close as possible, we record the source, and then we compare and contrast. And I think that's a great way of going about things, but I think that it's limited in certain regards. First of all, it doesn't really show what we would do as real engineers. If you're a real engineer and you're given 1 microphone to record a source, well, you put it in the best place that you can, not necessarily in the same place as something else. The other issue is that when we're doing that kind of direct comparison, there tends to be a bit of favoritism that naturally occurs, and I'll give you a basic example. Let's say that we were recording, say, something like acoustic guitar, and we had 1 microphone that was really bassy and 1 microphone that was maybe a little thin. If we put them in the exact same position, well, the one that ends up sounding bassy could very well sound muddy if the one that sounds thin sounds correct. And conversely, if we move things back and we tilt away from the sound hole and we cut some of that mud down in the bassier microphone, well, now our thin microphone is going to sound really thin because, again, we've moved it to favor 1 microphone. So I'm not going to call this a shootout, although the title of the video might say shootout for the sake of clicks. In reality, this is going to be more of a showcase. We're going to be starting with every microphone in the same basic position for every source that we record, but I'm going to make small adjustments in order to flatter each microphone and see if I can get the best out of that microphone possible. This way, when we're listening qualitatively, we're going to be able to get a better sense of what each microphone can potentially bring to the table. Now, following the methodology, I also want to point out that there's a few technical things that have to be locked down as well. First of all, we need matched preamps, so we're going to be using using the Millennia HV8. Every channel has been tested for distortion and noise, and to make sure that the overall level is within about 1 dB, which it did check out. We selected the closest matched channels. They were all very close, but we selected the ones that were the absolute closest, and then that's going to get into Pro Tools. Now in Pro Tools, things might be coming in slightly different levels because every microphone is going to have its own output. So those microphone levels are going to get adjusted a bit in Pro Tools and then bust out to the board, where it's going to be adjusted again a little bit in order to create something that is perceivably about the same loudness. However, we're not really going to be focusing on the loudness. We're going to be focusing on the quality when we do our analysis. So that's the basic setup. Now, when it comes to our sources, we are going to be recording 4 different voices. We've got male vocals, female vocals, acoustic guitar, and drum overhead, and that drum overhead is going to be single mic whole kit capture. This should give us a really diverse idea of what these microphones can potentially sound like. When it comes time for the analysis, that's where things get really fun. I'm going to get up and leave the room, and Steve here at Power Station, he's going to do me a favor. He's going to use a random number generator, and he's going to randomly assign our microphones channels 1 through 4. Now, yes, we do have 5 microphones, but I'm going to put the mystery microphone on channel 5. We're going to know it's the mystery microphone, but the other 4, well, I'm not going to know. You're not going to know. So when we're doing that analysis, we're just going to be listening to the qualitative characteristics of every mic independently. So when we're listening that way, that tells us a lot more, because in truth, what is best is always going to be application dependent. Then we can all take a guess as to which microphones we think are which, including myself. But I want to give you a heads up, and now this part might be a little bit annoying for some of you guys, but the reveal is not going to be in this video. We're doing things a little different. I did say that. Here's why it's not going to be in this video. I want to keep the comment section honest, and I want to make it fun. I think we should guess. I think those should be pure guesses. We should say what we are hearing, and we should be honest about it. So let's keep it fun. Let's keep it honest. At the end of the video, I want you guys to pick which microphones you think is which, and just for a really bit of a hard twist, trying to guess what the 5th microphone even is.
Found a thrill to press my cheek to, a thrill that I can call my own. I found a dream, I said the wrong words, a thrill that I have never known. Oh, you smile, and then a spell was cast. Ooh, and here we are in heaven. For you are mine at last.
Every moment I spend with you is like a fantasy. I don't know why you care so much for me. This feeling that I feel, I can't explain. All that I know, I want to know more of you. Every moment I spend with you, I love you more. Oh, I can't let go of you. When I look at the sun and the moon, it reminds me of you. Lord, I love you.
All right, now we're going to get into the analysis. Now, I want to start off by saying that later down the line, the actual raw stems are going to be made available so that you can listen in a more detailed fashion and not through whatever YouTube encoder is going on. But again, also want to remind you that the reveal is not going to be in this video. So dismiss that from your mind. Let's just have fun listening to the playback. So I'd like to start with microphone number 1 here on Jamie's voice. Let's give that a play.
I found a dream, I said the wrong words, a thrill that I have never known. Oh, you smile.
So right off the bat here with number 1, I noticed there's a beautiful air in Jamie's voice. I really like that. There's a nice tone overall, feels really well balanced. It does get a little bit mid-rangey when she gets to her more loud note. She gets a little strident. That is natural to her voice. Definitely hearing that in this microphone a little bit. Let's pop on over to Terrell.
Every moment I spend with you is like a fantasy. I don't know why you care so much for me.
Yeah, I could listen to him all day. Terrell sounds really good as well. There's still a little bit of mid-range presence. It's a bit more flattering in his voice. It pulls him a little bit more forward. Definitely that same quality of just really, really breathtaking air in his vocal that I'm hearing here. The lows feel like they're very focused. They're very tight sounding. Definitely a good capture on his voice. Let's jump over to the acoustic guitar. That's a really good sound. That's a really good sound. It has like a certain romance to it. It feels like everything is very well defined. This to me is like a perfect classic modern country sound. Really good twang in there, tight focused lows, well-defined highs, not overwhelming, very forward sound. I dig it. Let's jump on over to the overheads. That is amazing. That's one microphone on drum kit. To me, that sounds fantastic. Everything is the transients are super defined, super detailed. It's a really good balance of the kit overall. Really strong snare that's just cracking, hitting your face. Really defined ride cymbal, crash cymbal, hi-hat. The kick feels like it's well represented, but doesn't quite have the sub that I would want. But I have a hunch that I'm going to have that note throughout because there is literally no other mic reinforcing the kick. So there's no D12 or anything like that. So, we're not going to get those subtones, I think, really probably in anything. But yeah, that's a really, really darn good sound. All right, so I genuinely have no idea. So here's the other thing, too. I don't know which microphone is which, and I have an advantage in that I help set up every single microphone, but genuinely, I don't really have a guess here yet. So let's listen to mic 2. Let's hop back to Jamie.
I found a dream, I said the wrong words, a thrill that I have never known. Oh, you smile.
So I really like the way this one sounds on Jamie. I think this sounds very extended. It feels like it's got a lot of lows. It's got a nice full low mid, which kind of helps balance her brighter voice, which is a little bit mid forward and top heavy. So I feel like this mic is complementing her really well. I don't know if it's because it's a slightly darker microphone or if it's just because of the nature of the mic itself. Like maybe it's just works really well for her voice. I have some guesses. I'm starting to formulate some ideas and some guesses, but genuinely still haven't figured it out yet. Could we hear this microphone on Terrell?
Every moment I spend with you is like a fantasy. I don't know why you care so much for me. This feeling that I feel, I can't explain.
Yeah, this, again, I hear that same very, very full extension. So a lot of really good, well-presented bass, which on Terrell's voice sounds fantastic, but it also extends very well into the top end. I'm also noticing that there's a little bit of color kind of across like a broadband saturation. I should like to say that it's a brighter sound, but it's a very smooth brightness, and that's cluing me into something. So let's listen to the acoustic guitar with this mic. I love that sound. I think that's a fantastic sound. It reminds me very much of like 90s rock acoustic guitar. It has a tight low end. It's not like a huge low end presence, but the low end is definitely there and it's really well defined. The upper mids are present, but they don't feel like they're overextended. And the top end, it feels very, very bright, but again, it's a very smooth brightness. So I think it's adding a really nice sense of detail to the acoustic guitar, which I'm quite a fan of. I'd like to hear this on overhead. The smoothness on those cymbals is amazing. I love the way the cymbals sound in that capture. There's definitely a tone, a distinct color to this mic. It's hard to put that into words exactly, but it's like a very distinct saturation that I'm hearing, but it's a very nice saturation, so I'm not mad at it. The kick, similar to the last mic that we were listening to, the kick feels a little bit underrepresented, but again, because this is single mic kit capture, I think that's going to be across the board. Snare sounded really good. All the dynamics were really well articulated and detailed. Let's move on to microphone number 3, and let's hop back to Jamie.
Found a thrill to press my cheek to, a thrill that I can call my own. I found a dream, I said the wrong words, a thrill that I have never known.
So this one has a very distinct feature that I think separates it from the two we were listening to before. There is a very sultry tone that's coming out of Jamie's voice that wasn't present on the previous two microphones. There's sort of a darker, kind of more like a burgundy red tone. I don't know how else to describe it. It's very smoky sounding, and I like it quite a bit. So really nice lows. Mid-range feels really well represented. There's definitely a color in the bass as well. Not a bad color. It's definitely a good color. I think that we're going to hear that probably in Terrell's voice as well, especially because he's a little bassier. Can we hear that?
Every moment I spend with you is like a fantasy. I don't know why you care so much for me. This feeling that I feel I can't explain.
I could listen to that all day. That sound, that mic on his voice, it has this like that same smokiness that I was hearing before on Jamie with that color in the low end sounds amazing on Terrell. I think that is a fantastic sound. Yeah, I would probably want to brighten him up a little bit in the mix. Not much, just a little bit, but definitely has a solid weight to it and smokiness, which I really enjoy. Let's pop over to the acoustic guitar. Yeah, so same darkness, same smoky tone. It definitely smooths out some of the string noises. This would be a really, really great microphone for acoustic guitar if I had like a brighter vocalist that was being paired with this sound. I think that would be a fantastic combination because everything sits a little bit deeper and a little bit darker on this. It's a really, really rich capture, but it doesn't feel like it's muddy. That's the other thing I want to point out. It is a little darker than the previous two, but it doesn't sound like it's getting muddy, which is a really important feature of a darker sounding microphone. And it also retains a good mid presence. I'd like to hear it on the overheads. So this is really interesting because if this mic is what I think it is, what I'd like to point out here is that to me, this microphone so far makes the drums feel the closest. But if it's the microphone that I think it is, it's actually the microphone that was furthest away, which I think is really, really interesting. So there's a fatness to this microphone and a strong mid-range saturation to me that makes everything feel tight. This one is reinforcing the kick a little bit more. It's pulling that snare with a good amount of weight. The cymbals are being rolled off a little bit. Depending on the style of music I was going for, I would either want to EQ up a little bit of the brightness, or I might choose to leave it as is with that slightly darker tone, because it might just work really well that way. Now let's pop on over to 4.
I found a dream, I said the wrong words. A thrill that I've never known. Oh, you smile.
So this one, I feel like the top and the bottom sound amazing in this. There's a really, really great saturation that is just something kind of magical about it. It is a little bit mid-range aggravated. Like when she goes to that louder dynamic, I feel like this one gets pretty piercing. But overall, I love the sound of it so far. Let's pop on over to Terrell.
Every moment I spend with you is like a fantasy. I don't know why you care so much for me. This feeling that I feel, I can't explain.
So this is also a really great sound. If I was going for like that kind of more classic R&B type sound, that's it right there. I don't think I would need to EQ anything, change anything. Like I feel like it's representing the lows, mids, highs perfectly. It's got that really beautiful saturation across everything that's like subtle but present at the same time. Yeah, fantastic sound. But let's be honest, hard to make Terrell sound bad, frankly. Like any of these microphones sound great on him. Let's pop on over to the acoustic. Yeah, so same thing. I mean, it feels like a very realistic capture. There's a lot of great detail. And what I want to point out about the detail is that not only is there a lot of great detail, but it doesn't feel overextended. It feels like it still, has a nice solid low mid that keeps it, strong and have body. It's a really fantastic sound, actually. Let me hear it on overhead. So I like this one. It's a little rounder than maybe I would prefer. Maybe would like to have a little bit more lift in the top end. I'm also noticing that there's a little bit of breakup on the front of the snare on the loudest hits, just a little bit of crunch. It doesn't really bother me, but it's something that's kind of just noteworthy. I think I'm getting a good idea of what everything is. I think I might have it. So I'm going to put down my guesses here before we jump over to our mystery microphone. But I'm pretty sure that this one is this. I'm pretty sure that this... You guys can put your guesses in the comment section below. We'll compare notes. Okay, now let's listen to our mystery microphone. Let's start with Jamie.
I found a dream, I said the wrong words. A thrill that I've never known. Oh, you smile.
Okay, that is an interesting sound. First, I want to point out that this microphone seems to be the most flattering to that upper mid. That upper mid resonance when she goes to the high dynamic has been bothering me in every mic capture except for this one, which I think is kind of interesting. There's definitely a texture that I'm picking up on. It's hard to exactly describe what that is, but there's definitely a texture. Everything feels very, very even. Like it almost feels like it's been EQ'd to be perfect in a way. Like the mids have all been smoothed out a little bit. Really nice extension in the top end, but also a very slight bit of roll off from keeping it from feeling like overhyped. Same thing with the bottom. It extends well into the bottom just to like where it needs to be, and then it kind of stops and stays tight and focused. So really, really cool sound. Let's jump over to Terrell.
Every moment I spend with you is like a fantasy. I don't know why you care so much for me. This feeling that I feel.
I mean, this could be an SM57 in a trash can, and I feel like Terrell would still sound good. A little different in terms of the frequency spectrum. I feel like I'm catching a little bit more of the sibilances. They sound good. It's a smooth sound, but it's a little overpronounced. So if I could go back in time and maybe move the microphone in order to cut some sibilance a little bit, just to balance the voice out, I would probably do that. In terms of everything else in the frequency spectrum, it sounds really even. Again, kind of has that like already mixed sound to it slightly. Just everything is sitting very impressively evenly, as if it was like, this is the way it was intended to sound, which I think is pretty cool. Let's jump over to acoustic guitar. Cool, so I like this sound. There is a little bit of, it feels like there's a little bit of a resonance in the upper mid that's being picked up a little bit more than some of the other mics. I really like the top end here. There's something going on in the relationship of the top end that I would describe as like a gray mist. I don't know how else to put it into words. There's like a distinct texture that feels like softening without being softening. I don't know exactly how to describe it. The low mids feel like they're pretty dense, maybe a little hair more dense than I would like them to be. Like if they were just a hair more open, I think it would be perfect. As is, it's still pretty darn good, and it's really, really well represented, so it's a very full sound, and again, a pretty fairly even sound. Almost feels like, again, like it's mixed already. So definitely interesting. Let's jump on over to the overhead. So this is why I want to point out what I discussed earlier about doing shootouts versus doing this showcase kind of way of doing it, where the microphones end up in different positions. I know for a fact which microphone this is, and I also know that it's actually the closest mic to the kit. But what I want to point out is that it's got the most room tone in it. Let's just play it for one more second. So more room tone even though it's closer. And this is probably because it might have a wider cardioid pickup pattern than the other microphones. If it's got a wider pickup, then it's going to get more room sound into it. Now, in terms of the sound of it, I like the room sound actually. It's very bombastic. You know, it feels like kind of more like a rock break than say like a funk break or something like that. Very heavy sound, mid forward, solid lows, solid punch, really good sound overall. So, damn, I'm pretty impressed with everything, truthfully. Like, I don't think that there was anything that was really coming up short here. Can't wait to see what you guys are saying in the comment section. So, in the comment section, don't forget, guess which microphone you think is which, and don't worry about being wrong. Look, I might not get this right either, frankly. And, guess what the mystery microphone, that's the best way to say this. Guess what you think the mystery microphone might be. Should be interesting to read this below. All right, thanks, guys. I think this is the microphone.
Nope.
No?
I have some guesses. Maybe I'm 100% sure, maybe I'm not. Either way, join us next week for the big reveal, as well as some more detailed analysis. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios, ciao, goodbye!